So the big Stanford Stadium game, Robert. Quakes lose 3-1. We get a couple goals from Chicharito Hernandez. Although we do get a consolation goal there from Christian Espinoza later on in the match on a penalty kick. Curious as to what your thoughts are of the match, watching it from afar.
Yeah, this was, and especially I'm going to focus on those first 45 minutes. This was, for me, a clear display of one team simply being better than the other team. The way the LA Galaxy midfield pretty much controlled that first 45. Ricky Puig looked very, very impressive whenever he was on the ball. Mark Delgado doing what Delgado's done for many years now, first with Toronto and now with LA, being a factor. And then with Bruggeman in the middle, getting their all important goal tonight as well. But that trio pretty much just outplayed the Quakes midfield trio. We saw Nico Chikeris get his first career start, and he had some nice moments. He didn't look like a lost 17-year-old out there, so that was a big plus. But with him and Judson and Jackson Ewell, just never really got the same kind of chemistry going together that the LA Galaxy midfield had. And that just really kept things in LA's favor. They were able to press and push and really kind of bend Tanner Beeson in all different directions at times, and really kind of took that 2-0 lead after the first 45 minutes, and in a sense, kind of coasted to victory in that second half. So the second half was much more encouraging, but when you're down 2-0, you do expect to try to bounce back and do your best. But against this Galaxy team on this night, it simply wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, and we did get to see some minutes from Miguel Trauco in this match. We got to see some Chase Salinas at the end. Maybe a lot of Quakes fans hoping for some magic there at the end. Robert, who were the standout players for the Earthquakes in this match, in which they really struggled to get anything going against the Galaxy?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm glad you brought up Miguel Chaco. It was nice to see him get a play. Given that he's one of these three signings, if you count Rodriguez, who's already getting some minutes. Played decent, but not necessarily good enough in that first half. Kind of you could say who was responsible for the sequence that led to the second Galaxy goal. I think if you're looking at the positives, Espinosa was able to do a good job of being the Earthquakes' primary offensive engine, and a player that was giving the Galaxy defense some troubles at times. In the same way that we saw Araujo, really kind of owning the one sideline. I think you could safely say Christian Espinosa was doing the same on the other side. It was a disappointing game from Jeremy Ebobisse, as someone who had some opportunities and made a few good stand-up plays here and there, but simply wasn't able to really have an effect on this game. And so when you didn't have a tight defensive line, when you had a midfield that was pretty much second best on the evening, and then if you're comparing forwards, Ebobisse's night compared to Chicharito's, this was simply a night where it was going to be LA's victory. And I have to say the 3-2 score line probably flatters the Quakes a bit, given the way LA was playing and really controlling this game. So maybe in the history books it won't look like as bad a loss or as a lopsided a loss as it was. But again, this was LA's night. And Phil, I think you said something there important. It wasn't like the Earthquakes were just poor tonight; they just weren't great tonight, and LA was playing to their level of quality, and it really did show.
And so one of the other things about the Quakes in this match is we did get to see a bit of Kate Cowell. I think a lot of fans were wondering whether or not we were going to see Benji Kanovich come on a little bit earlier, considering some of the offensive struggles that they had. And I do want to make a quick correction. You're right. It was 3-2. I did say 3-1. I totally forgot about the own goal at the end of the match. I think, at that point, I was kind of figure things out as to where we were going to set up here at the stadium. So I'm going to let you continue to give a little bit more of your analysis in regards to the Quakes and their offensive output, Robert, because if I keep going, I think all we're going to hear is fireworks and the AC/DC going on in the background.
Yeah, it's pretty loud. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it to the stadium tonight, but I'm only a couple miles away, and I'm hearing the booms and crashes loud and clear. So I can't imagine what it's like if you're just yards away like you are there, Phil. My dogs are cowering in one of the corners of the room, and I'm hiding here in the other side of the room, hopefully with enough sound cancellation that you won't hear the fireworks. So yeah, you can hear me, maybe some verbal fireworks come out of this. This was kind of continuing on the theme. It's something I want to kind of touched on tonight at some point, and I know when we have a chance to hear from the locker room, we'll get some more clarity on this. But this was something that I saw a tweet earlier today that got my attention. The Quakes are out of the playoffs; they are eliminated, and the Galaxy are really fighting to gain some traction and put themselves in a good position. And so for San Jose, for that locker room, for those players, this was their final. This was the game they could point, circle and say, let's put it all out there and let's see what we can do. We've got 40 plus thousand fans, most of them supporting us in the stadium, and all of that together, set up a really good opportunity to leave a great impression upon a fan base that's needing a little love in terms of what this team can provide. There is one more home game to try to kind of rectify what we saw tonight against a team that's also fighting for the playoffs. Maybe the Quakes can play spoilers against Minnesota, but this was one in which potentially even with all of the Quakes' heart and all the Quakes' might and all the Quakes' talent that they could muster tonight, they ran into an LA team that was working and working well, and that's not always a trademark of this Galaxy team, but they seem highly motivated, and I don't know what it was. Maybe getting a little bit of break, maybe knowing it was the only game on the calendar, maybe the what I must say was an excellent tifo by the San Jose supporters tonight, mocking both LA clubs, because why not stick with just one when you can get them both down like that. I don't know if Chicharito was responding with his sort of clown dance after both of his goals. It seemed maybe more premeditated on his part, but I guess you got to say a good response from the Mexican forward with respect to that. Again, it was the kind of game that even watching on the screen, you knew the atmosphere was great. I'm sure, Phil, you've got some good good anecdotes of what you experienced in the stadium directly. And sometimes it's just not your night, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much effort you put out on the field. And so I didn't see the Quakes laying down and letting LA run over them. I just think they were outplayed tonight.
Yeah, I do think that one thing that I think a lot of fans are going to be thinking about as we go into the last couple of matches, it looks like we have the Seattle Sounders coming up and Minnesota United FC. Those are the next two matches on the calendar. As we near the end of the season, I think a lot of folks are going to want to see the young players, right? We did get to see Nico Chikaris for a substantive amount of time tonight, which was really great. But I'm thinking people are going to be looking towards who are the starting players going to be for next season. And how is it going to look, particularly in the midfield? That's a big question that I had looking at this match. It was interesting to see both Jackson Yule and Nico Chikaris get those minutes in front, of the Judson at one point, and then Eric Remedi later on. I don't think we saw a lot getting put together there in a way that led to offense for this team. But also, we had a lot of issues in the back line as well. I know we haven't talked about too much of that yet. We did mention Trauco getting the minutes. But we had the issues with Rodriguez once again, right? He did get the MLS, he did get the team of the week at one point when he first came into the team. But since then, he's been having a lot of struggles, kind of finding himself as a presence on the back line, but also just, making a simple play. And there was a moment in this match when Chicharito scored a goal in which Rodriguez pretty much just got totally spun around. There was another instance in which he was in no man's land. And so there was a lot of difficulty there for him, kind of pairing up with the rest of the back line. So, Robert, I am interested, though, on your take in terms of what you thought about the defense, maybe sans Rodriguez, or, just considering his performance as well and what you saw from him and the rest of the back line.
Yeah, it's a great point, and there is a lot of excitement around Rodriguez in the same way that when we saw Nathan join the team, and he did the same thing. He got everyone's attention in his first couple of appointment starts. The fist pumps, the passion. There was a lot of excitement, and the numbers really backed up Nathan's start in San Jose. He was definitely a well above average center back, and that there's still plenty of there's not enough minutes really to really look at Rodriguez in the same way and see where he's going to be, but in the same way that players on offense sometimes get figured out with scouting and defenses start to adjust. other opposing offenses will start to scout out defenses and see what weaknesses might be there. In both plays, we saw a little more of an aggressive play out of Rodriguez that led to a couple of those goals. Both his play out of the back and a very, very dangerous pass into Jackson Ewell in a place in the field where things had to go perfectly for Jackson to do much with. That's the kind of play that if you've got a center back, who's making those efforts, playing out of the back, looking to do that instead of playing safe, then you can press. You can maybe push into positions and take advantage of it. I think there's a little bit of unfortunate or bad luck, if you will, on the first Chicharito goal with the ball kind of spinning through Rodriguez's legs. But again, that's the kind of play where if he's kind of putting in more effort, if he's a bit over aggressive, and the film shows that, then offenses are going to kind of gear around that and try to see if they can get him to bite, see if they can get to kind of fake him out of a position and maybe open some space for another player. LA had other golden opportunities in this match. I mean, Chicharito really and rightfully should have had a hat trick on the night on another play where he was able to shake loose of the defense and just narrowly miss the goal wide. So in terms of a defensive line, he'll have to show better. He'll have to show that he's adapting to the way the Quakes play. He'll have to show he can adapt to the way offenses adapt to playing him. And I think with an off season, with some training, with some pointed coaching, with Lucci coming aboard and his coaching staff, that's going to be a big test for that group. To get this Brazilian duo working together and working consistently well, because those moments when they happen and when they lead to mistakes, teams are ready to punish the Earthquakes, and again, it showed tonight.
And one of the big stories coming into the match, Robert, was that the Quakes were without Jamiro Montero, right? He's on international duty with Cape Verde. And so they were really lacking that sort of interplay in the midfield, the heartbeat of the team, if you would. There were just moments where the Quakes, they made the attempt to counter on certain plays against LA. They kind of sat back at times, and yet they really struggled to link together those passes. And I think that we also saw that affect Jeremy Abobasi quite a bit, because we know that Abobasi has really built a strong connection with Jamiro Montero. I mean, he's talked about how Montero has that ability to find the pass, to anticipate the runs that the other players are making. And we didn't quite see that often during this match. I think there was one instance in which Nico Chiquera sent in like a 40-yard ball that was just absolutely brilliant to Christian Espinoza, and that was the ball that actually led to the penalty in which he scored. So there were some nice moments here and there, some things for Quakes fans to look forward to. But overall, I mean, Montero not being in this match had an immense impact on the team. Here's another quick stat for you. We got this from Sterling McGarvey on Twitter, and this is the second match that the Quakes have lost at Stanford Stadium against the LA Galaxy. And do you know who was not present for both of these matches? The only two, Robert.
Well, I know I wasn't present at both those matches, but
well, I will give you a hint. The other year in which the Earthquakes lost here at Stanford Stadium against the Galaxy was in 2014, and there was a very big event going on during that time, and a very special player missing in the team, Chris Wondolowski.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we know that the team's impact players not being in this match is going to have a big impact in itself. And so looking at the attack here, you had mentioned before that Abobasi had some struggles. I'm sure Montero's absence had a lot to do with that. Was there anything else that you wanted to discuss in terms of his performance and what we were seeing from the forward position overall, also including Christian Espinoza, Cade Cowell, and Benji Kikanovic as well?
Yeah. I think it's your point too about Montero missing is valid. Not recently, I had a chance to submit my votes and my selections for some of the Earthquakes awards at the end of the season, and one of the awards is for Offensive Player of the Year. I voted for Jeremy Abobasi. You don't argue with goals. Goals count in this game, and if you can't score goals, you're not going to get any points. And so, he's clearly for me been the offensive MVP. We were asked for the defensive MVP. That was a tricky one, but I ended up going with Nathan eventually because he's the kind of guy who, when he was healthy, is about as rock solid as you can get as a central defender on this team. So, both of those selections really kind of played into the category of offensive MVP, defensive MVP. Well, what we didn't have a vote for is who's the overall MVP on this team. And my overall MVP is Jamiro Montero. He has been the guy, he's been the glue at times in that midfield. He's as close to a number 10 as they have in certain situations. And when he's he's not on the field, it shows. Nico didn't necessarily step into that provider role. Jackson could, but he tended to kind of come back, and he was being more protective in a way that seemed to be more to the getting in a sense overrun by an LA midfield that was playing really, really well. But Montero's he's a real engine on that offense, and so when you're relying on Espinosa to be more of your number 10, and while he wears the number 10, we know that's not really his role on the field. It becomes a bit more one-dimensional. I still think he had a fantastic game, like I mentioned earlier. I think Espinosa was critical to keeping the Quakes in it, and with respect to having some of those offensive opportunities. But Cade Cowell was a bit absent in this one. I think Julian Araujo really didn't lock him down and made it really tough for him on the other wing. And again, Jeremy was kind of on an island at times, and when he did get his opportunities, unfortunately, he didn't make great contact, and it wasn't enough to really trouble the LA Galaxy goalkeeper. So you miss that glue guy. You miss that guy in the midfield that's being able to look forward and look ahead and kind of make some of those connections. And his teammates just weren't able to fill in his shoes tonight. And that too, I think, is something that is worth mentioning in terms of what caused the imbalance.
Yeah, I think that raises a lot of questions about leadership. This is something that the Quakes fan base has been talking about all season. We've made it a point here on the show, not just captain's armband, but who's actually in there and possessing, finding opportunities, creating chances, all of those things. We had another opportunity to see a lot of the regular starters in this match, and I think without Jamiro Montero being in the lineup, we did see them get exposed quite a bit because they had to step up and be the playmakers and be the ones to make the difference when Montero is not there. So I'm curious. I mean, for me, the position that stands out to me right now is the defensive midfield position, the number 6, if you will. Jutes and Remedio both getting a chance to play in that position tonight. But is there anywhere else on the field, or is perhaps that the spot where the Quakes really need to be looking in terms of solidifying the lineup and putting out a more competitive lineup going into the next season, Robert?
Well, I think I'm gonna call out Cade. I mean, again, a younger player. Has had a chance to play many games, so it's not like he's brand new to this team. He's got a lot of exposure, and he should, and rightfully should, continue to develop. Whether he's able to get the push he needs with San Jose's coaching staff, or whether eventually he is kind of transferred to another program and starts to make his leap there. A lot should be expected out of Cade Cowell at this point. And so when you have Christian on one side, kind of showing with his veteran experience what he's capable of doing, we haven't seen as much on the left-hand side. Benji has had a long string of starts and did fairly well at times, but again, I think the same sort of kind of level of performance Benji was providing was no better than, or at least not significantly better than, Cade. And that's troubling for the Quakes. Now you have to also kind of include that they have Tanner Beeson playing almost as that emergency left back in these last couple of games, and he's not a left back. And it was really clear tonight that he's not a left back. When Miguel Trauco came in, it was encouraging. He definitely looks like a player that's going to want to maybe get involved more in the offense. In fact, near the end of the game, he almost was playing a central midfield role, kind of diving in there and making and spraying passes around. And if he does, that's going to rely on a partnership with a winger on the left that can work with a player like Miguel. And if that's going to be something I think the Quakes will need to consider as they move into 2023. If Miguel Trauco is going to be your starting left back, who's going to be your starting left winger that's going to partner and complement his skills?
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe in these last couple of matches, we'll have a chance to see Miguel Trauco go. I would imagine that he would be getting some more minutes in these matches, perhaps even starting. But you're right. Tanner Beeson is not a natural left back. It's not his regular position. He's more of a center back, as we've seen. And he's shown well there. He's more than serviceable, in my opinion. I think he's a pretty strong center back, and he's paired well with Nathan. In fact, in the beginning of the year, I remember that Sporting Kansas City game is one that really stands out to me, in which he looked as one of the stars of the team. He was quite great. So maybe with another year under his belt, we will see a lot more consistent play from Tanner Beeson. But I am thinking hopefully we'll get to see more of Miguel Trauco on the left side. And then eventually we're going to get Carlos Acapo on the back line as well. And that's going to be something that's really important for the Quakes to have as well, especially considering some of the woes that Rodriguez has had on the back line. I mean, the more time that these guys get together in real-time minutes on the pitch, playing together as a full 4 back line, then I think that's going to really benefit the team. not just on the back line itself, but connecting with the midfield and allowing for, the play to be more progressive. Because I think right now they do really well to possess. They're struggling to create opportunities in the attack. And so I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there when you're talking about the wingers. That's going to be a really important part of this too. Benji Kikanovic and Cade Cowell are really going to have to find ways that they can be more impactful for this team. We've seen flashes of it, and Benji has been quite solid at times throughout the season, but we haven't quite seen enough from Cade, in my opinion. And I think that we're going to have to really see that build up. And I think we might have to see a bit of an adjustment there on the right side as well with Christian Espinoza. He's not going to be playing regularly, should he be returning to the team next season with whoever is playing that position right now, whether it's Paul Marie or whoever gets plugged in, Tommy Thompson. It's going to be different with Carlos Acapos. So I don't know if it's going to be an off-season thing or maybe we will see, some minutes here at the very tail end of the season. That's going to be kind of interesting to look at. But Robert, I'm going to toss it back over to you for any other points you want to make about this match going into the next match for the San Jose Quakes.
Yeah, I don't think the Quakes should hang their heads. I mean, clearly they were outplayed today, but this wasn't a case where it was for lack of effort. And, if they can capture some of that same and intensity, that same confidence, and any sort of momentum with respect to getting a couple goals back and not letting this be a complete blowout, at least not on the scoreboard, then they can go back to that spoiler role. This will be the last game of the year at PayPal Park, and the fans that will make it out to that game deserve as much as they saw out of the Earthquakes tonight with respect to the effort, and hopefully they will get even better when it comes to the result. That's my message from a month ago. It's the home games that to me really matter at the end of this season. If you're trying to impress the coaching staff, if you want Lucci to kind of put your name in a bit of a thicker pencil in his off-season plans, then you've got to make it happen. And the home games are where if you don't step up, it's very obvious. It's very clear that your efforts, your intensity, your commitment is not going to be there if in a home game you aren't able to put in a top performance. I'm not a professional soccer player. I don't necessarily understand the exact mentality it takes to be out there and just the absolute dedication you would have to make. But it is a job in that sense, and it's a job that these players are paid to do. And so, to do that for the home fans and to put out the best commitment that they can, I think is the number one goal against Minnesota. If they lose that game, but they put in a great effort and great, great just across the board, make the effort that needs to be done, fine. That's, to me, that is what you need to do in this portion of the season where you're trying to continue to get the attention of what will be a new coaching staff next year. But if they fall flat, or if an individual just puts in a less than 100% effort, it'll show. It'll really show. And I think that's going to be kind of the effort that would lead to the eraser from that pencil mark. Because I know Lucci is not looking to rescue everyone that's here, but rather to select the guys that he can trust into next year, and then continue with Chris Leach to build this team with new additions. And that's going to be, I think, the pressure these guys need to feel today.
Absolutely. And with Luchi Gonzalez coming in, I think folks know already that he is somebody who has a wealth of experience working with academies and working with young players. And I think that's another aspect that the Quakes have to look forward to with Lucci stepping in as head coach going into the next season. Perhaps we'll see some other aspects of the play from Cade Cowell and Nico Chikaris and some of the younger guys and getting connected with the senior team here and playing at their best. So one thing I want to do before we go on, Robert, is I want to go ahead and have the YouTube crowd who has joined us tonight. Make sure you check out QuakesEpicenter.com, where you can find articles written by our brilliant writers, including Robert. We have Robert and Colin Etnier and Nate Patel, Jamin Moore, Alex Morgan, who all have their articles there on QuakesEpicenter.com. If you look there at the bottom of the screen, you can also see the Patreon link. That is QuakesEpicenter.com/Patreon.
That's right. And don't forget the merch. There's the beautiful Aftershock scarf, already a part of the scarf wall here in the Jonas household. So I hope everyone had a chance to get their own Aftershock scarf, because it is a nice, quite fine piece of quality and looks quite nice up there, if I may say so.
Yeah, just got mine in the mail. It's a good looking scarf. It's good quality. Yeah, it's a great one to add to the collection. It's a great one to wear to the stadium. Speaking of which, I'm here at Stanford Stadium. I know I've kind of briefly mentioned it already. I didn't quite get into it because of the noise. I didn't have an opportunity to talk too much in the beginning because of the fireworks going off and everything. But as you can see, there's a bit of a glare, but folks are kind of leaving. Most of the people have kind of cleared out, but there's still some folks hanging around. It looks like they're down there at the bottom. Normally the players will come out and meet some of the fans and sign autographs and whatnot. So, but it's a nice night out here in Palo Alto. I mean, you know, the air is nice, and the only trouble was getting into the stadium. I mean, as those of you know who've been here to this game, the parking situation can be quite difficult. I know I spent a lot of time on El Camino Real just sitting there and waiting to get into the stadium. But once I got here, it was absolutely fantastic, despite the scoreline. So it's been a pretty great night, you know, otherwise. Robert, thinking about the team performance, though, we will be hearing from Alex Morgan in a bit. Hopefully, he is actually down there in the locker room right now or on his way up. He's getting quotes in real time, the old school way, writing them down and running back up here to the press box to share them with the listeners on YouTube, or if you're listening in podcast form. So yeah. Oh, there's one thing I left out though when I was bringing up the website, quakesepicenter.com, and the Patreon. For only $2 a month with the Patreon, you can become a patron and you'll get early access to our content on Quakes Epicenter. This includes footage of the player scouting reports, for example. We've had the scouting reports of Rodriguez and Carlos Acapo when they first got signed. This would allow you to get early access to that. Any of the articles that get posted go to our patrons first. They can read them first. We have a lot of great long-form articles that are definitely worth the time to read. If you go to the website right now, you can see them right on the main page there. For $5 a month on the Patreon, you can also get access to the Slack channel, the Patreon Slack channel. And so you can be a part of the most diehard, hardcore Quakes Epicenter fans who love to chat about the team, whether it is game time or it is in between games or in the off season. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of cool emojis on there that we like to use. There are emojis of all of the hosts of the Aftershock. So that's always a fun thing. Whenever somebody makes a comment in regard to one of us, you will see our little tiny heads on there on the screen. But there's a lot of cool stuff there on the Quakes Epicenter Patreon Slack that you can check out. Another thing, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel right here on YouTube, and turn on those notifications so that way after every match you can see when the Aftershock postgame show will be ready to go, as well as any midweek content that's put out there as well. So we have, for example, Jamin will meet from some of the beat writers from some of the other teams around Major League Soccer, and they have a lot of great conversations about what to look for when it comes to the games for the upcoming match, the upcoming match for whoever they're going to be playing. And so, yeah, there's a lot of great stuff to get connected to through quakesepicenter.com. And again, make sure you check out the shop, where not only can you find that really cool scarf that Robert has behind him, you can find stickers as well. So, Robert, as we're transitioning here back to some of the analysis of the match, and we're looking at how things went, what do you think was the tactical approach that Alex Covello brought into this match? Oh, it looks like we got Alex.
Hello, gentlemen.
Question for it. First of all, welcome. As you can see, everybody, Alex is down there on the field, and I'm quite interested to hear what Alex Covello had to say about this performance. We were just about to go into the tactics because we've already talked about player performances, but whatever you can share in terms of what Alex has shared with us and the player interview, because we still don't know who that is. What do you got for us?
Absolutely. So unfortunately today, because of the setup at Stanford Stadium, there will be no live streamed post-game press conference. However, I was just in the Earthquakes locker room. I was able to speak with Alex Covello and with Nico Shakiris. Also got a quick chance to grab Chicharito and was able to talk to all of them to get their reactions from the game. So I'm happy to jump right in. Obviously, a pretty gloomy situation for the Quakes with the 3-1 defeat. They did what they came to do. They scored the 2 late goals, but they dug themselves. They did the thing, but they dug themselves a hole that was just a little bit too large. Chicharito was pretty smug after having scored that brace. So I'm happy to jump into it with the quotes, if you'll allow me, gentlemen. All right, I'm getting the green light. I have them all here on we're going analog style. It is the trusty manual pen and paper, the good old days. So I'll jump in with Alex Covello's press conference. I'll give you a blow-by-blow if you were it's just like we were live streaming it, basically. Just imagine I've got a pebble gray beard and speak in a soothing accent. Just imagine I'm Alex Cavello. I'm wearing a Quakes kit on the touchline, barking out orders, and that'll really allow you to feel more inspired. Alex Cavello admitted that the Quakes did not start well. He took responsibility for that. He said that he didn't get his message across to the team. That's a quote. And I think that's an accurate assessment. The Quakes started the first half really quite flat tonight. The Galaxy were really picking them apart in the midfield with Ricky Pooch, kind of controlling the tempo. Chicharito making the runs in behind. The Quakes couldn't get a word in edgewise. So I think Alex Cavello was realistic about that. And look, these are his final 3 games as coach of the San Jose Earthquakes. He's no longer trying to fool anybody. If the Quakes are playing poorly, he's going to admit that. He's not trying to spin any counterfactual narrative at this point. He did talk about Nico Shakiris, because Nico Shakiris was one of the highlights for the Quakes. He got his MLS debut, his first start in the midfield, and I thought he was one of their best players. He had the beautiful through ball into Christian Espinosa, from which the Quakes scored, from which they won the penalty, and Alex Cavello had a lot of positive things to say about Nico. He said that he did really well. He'd been playing fantastically in practice. That's why he gave him a start. It was something that they'd been planning on for a while. It wasn't an impromptu game time decision. Nico was aware that this was his opportunity to perform on the big stage. Nico's a kid from the Bay. He had been to Cali Clasicos as a kid. He'd attended these games with his family when he was younger. So it was a really cool venue for him to make his debut in. And Alex Cavello said he is the future of San Jose, of Major League Soccer, and possibly of Europe. So Alex Cavello seems really bullish about his future. He's only 16 years old, I think, maybe turning 17 soon. Just made his debut, and Alex Cavello is already talking about the long-term future of his career in Europe. He didn't look out of place. Sometimes he got disconnected from play, but I think Nico Shakiris did a really good job with creative spark in the midfield. I'd love to see him playing alongside Jamiro Montero at some point. That's probably something you guys already mentioned on the show. Jamiro Montero is out for international duty, and Nico Shakiris stepped in. But I'd love to see them play together, because I think we can talk more about this later, but I think they have really complementary assets in there. And Alex Cavello, next thing he talked about, next question, Miguel Trauco making his debut as well at left back, came on in the second half. I was expecting him to bomb forward down the left-hand flank a little bit more, but he played a little bit more defensively, let Shea Salinas do most of the shuttling up and down the flank. And look, Trauco only arrived in San Jose 3 weeks ago. Alex Cavello said it's preseason for Trauco. He's not fit. He's not integrated into the system yet. These were just 15 minutes to give him a taste of Major League Soccer and of the level of play at the end of this season, and a relatively low stakes game in regard to the playoffs. Alex Cavello also did talk about Chicharito, because that was the bogeyman. He was the bogeyman tonight for the Quakes. He scored 2 goals, and Alex Cavello admitted that they really didn't shut him down well. He said that they didn't match the pressure that the Galaxy were bringing up front. Chicharito was making lots of darting runs in behind, and he was pulling the center backs into the spaces into the channels, the half spaces between the center backs and the fullbacks. And he didn't think that the Quakes did a good job matching that energy that Chicharito brought. And he said, look, if you give Chicharito a single moment, then he'll make you pay. And that's what he did. He could have had even more goals. He had, a couple opportunities to make it 3 or 4 goals. I also was able to speak to Nico Shakiris. That was the portion of Alex Cavello's press conference that we were able to speak with him. Nico Shakiris, this was his first in-person press conference, first time facing the incredibly intimidating and daunting media. I think I was scaring him by writing down what he was saying. But he said that wanted to thank the fans for creating an incredible atmosphere. That was the first thing he said. He kept repeating that throughout his press conference. You guys know the drill. you guys have been in enough press conferences. You know, the first thing they do is thank the fans and congratulate everyone for a game hard fought, well fought. Nico Shakiris, young professional, gave us all of those lines. He said that I asked him about the pass in behind for Christian Espinosa as well. He said that, look, he wanted to keep it simple, to not try to overdo anything in his first start, but also that he was really happy with the way that pass worked out, because you know, in your debut, you want to try and create as much as you can, and so that pass came off really well. I think that's, you know, just one highlight of his, one flash of the brilliance that he has. He said that it was a big opportunity, and his family was here as well. That was the other thing that he talked about. He was on the field right here, right by where I'm standing, for, you know, a half an hour after the game, watching the fireworks with his family and being able to chat with them, because he had attended Cali Clasico games as a kid himself. He remembers being in the stands watching the team play when he was still a preteen. He said there's no better feeling, nothing like it, than getting to make his first start on the stadium, the pitch himself. And then the last person I got to talk to tonight was Chicharito himself. He was pretty smug, guys. What can you say? He acknowledged the tifo, the tifo that the San Jose Ultras put up. They put up a clown tifo, and I can read out the message here. It said, "The LA Circus, same clowns, different costumes." I'm not sure if you guys have talked about it on the show yet. That's the tifo that the Earthquakes Ultras, the San Jose Ultras, put on. And after Chicharito scored, he mocked them. He ran right to this corner here, and he did a little dancey dance, mocking the Ultras. And he said that, look, that tifo was motivation for him. That some people think that you know, it'll get in his head, that you know, that it'll put them off. But Chicharito's a guy who's played, you know, at the top level. He's experienced, I think, much worse abuse, much wittier abuse, quite frankly. Some of those stadium chants at Old Trafford are brutal, but he said that it was motivation for him, that you know, scoring 2 goals and celebrating like a clown is the perfect response. That's what he said. That's the quote verbatim right here. The best way to respond is to score and celebrate like a clown. So he was pretty smug after that one. And that's the extent. That's all the quotes I was able to grab, gentlemen. I'm sorry I don't have more for you, but that's the scoop.
I know you've been talking quite a bit already, but you did mention the central midfield when you were talking about Nico Shakiris, and we did have a little bit of a discussion pre-show, and you were talking about that sort of combination of Nico Shakiris and Jamiro Montero, and I think it'd be interesting for you to elaborate on that a little bit, and what that would look like going into next season, having Jamiro Montero, Jackson Newell, and Nico Shakiris, and then perhaps somebody different, or one of the current players in the 6th position right in front of the center backs.
Well, right now it's not working. I think you saw tonight Judson really struggled to cover enough ground yet again. He seemed to be off the pace once again. This is not the Judson that we got to watch in 2019. This is not the Judson that was shutting the Galaxy down at this same venue 2-3 years in a row. There was just too much space in behind him for Chicharito to exploit. It felt like Chicharito was able to run in those half spaces and to dance between the Judson and between the center backs. And if the Quakes had a really solid defensive midfielder, a linchpin in that central midfield, then I think that they could explore having Nico Shakiris and Jamiro Montero play as an 8 and a 10 play together, because both of them are incredibly creative players. I really like the Nico Shakiris's ability to pick his head up, to drive forward with the ball. He's always looking for that pass in behind to carry the ball up the field. And Jamiro Montero is great at distributing the play. He's a metronome, always looking to spread the ball out wide. I don't think that Nico Shakiris has that kind of control. He's not a guy who's going to be setting the tempo, because he's so forward-minded. That's what you saw tonight. Every single time he got the ball, he's turning, he's looking to dribble into space and take the ball forward. So I think you want somebody like Jamiro Montero alongside him, who can distribute the ball into wide areas a little bit more. So I want to see them together. Then the question is, you know, what happens to Jackson Newell? Jackson Newell didn't cover himself in glory tonight. I thought he did a good job defensively covering space, because, you know, Judson needed some help. But going forward, I don't think he had a super great connection with Nico Shakiris in there. So lots of options for Luchi Gonzalez when he takes over next season. If they can bring in a central defensive midfielder, then I think they're going to have a pretty good future ahead of them.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Alex. Why don't we go ahead and move over to the last segment of the show? Our final thoughts.
I'm just getting going, Phil. Why are we moving ahead?
You can take as much time as you like once we get to you, Alex. I'd like to move back over to Robert, though. Robert's been sitting very patiently as we've been going through the last few 20 minutes or so of the show. So, Robert, any thoughts that you would like to share as we move forward?
Well, first off, kudos to Alex, because he did all the yeoman's work there to grab those quotes. And while I was doing a little bit of speculating that the clown dance might have been in response to the tifo, to learn that Chicharito truly got motivated by the Ultras banner tonight is interesting. I mean, it's I can't imagine a player like him needs all that much motivation to get up for a rivalry. But I guess the Ultras didn't really do the players on the field any favors tonight with that tifo with respect to maybe firing up the opponent.
when you cover professional soccer for a long enough time, you realize these players are incredibly petty. Like, they're using like the most minuscule Twitter criticism. They're scrolling Twitter constantly to try to find, haters or doubters or skeptics so that they can fuel themselves for the next game. I think that's something that's true even when you get to the Premier League. How if you watch like the behind the scenes, the All or Nothing documentaries, you see they're constantly feeding them this barrage of insults so that they can get fueled for the next game. And the Quakes, the Ultras offered Chicharito that in that kind of motivation in spades.
They certainly did, and I'm not sure they'll accept the loss tonight. But that was I'm in a sense glad to hear Chicha admit that was something that motivated him. It clearly was not the celebration we normally see out of the All-Star there. So that was quite fascinating. And I think that's an excellent example of, Alex, your reporting chops there. So always much appreciated for clearing up what was before speculation, now centered as fact as to what the Galaxy's star forward had in store to respond to that. Now, good thing Carlos Vela wasn't in the house to respond to the LAFC half of that tifo. Maybe that'll be next season. He'll have his response, or hopefully not, for the Quakes' sake. So, but no, Alex, you said something that's pretty interesting about Nico. I think he's just 17, and it was very clear that of the three midfielders, when he was on the field, he was the most advanced midfielder. And unfortunately, he just did not have a lot of support. I think Jackson and Judson were both. I looked at the heat maps earlier; they were almost identical in the zones on the field where they were making their passes in that passing network, and that really showed you that Nico was being asked to do a lot more than probably his level of experience really would allow him to be able to do. To get the experience is fantastic. We know the Earthquakes kept both he and Cade Cal back from the national team call-ups over this international window. So to know that he was going to get rewarded with a start, I think it makes that a mission in the national team, well worth it, and something hopefully that he and the Quakes will be able to build on.
All right, Alex. You've got 16 minutes and 34.
Go.
I can start with the fact I'm seeing lots of comments about my presence here on the field. Judging by the security's job of handling the pitch intruders during the game, they don't care. I was shocked. It was almost embarrassing to.
And in case you didn't catch it at home, it was two pitch invaders. Well, the first one went back to his seat.
The first one went back to his seat and watched the rest of the game in peace. The stadium, the security didn't seem to care at all. For the second one, what happened was the Quakes representatives themselves went off and tackled this guy, and then had to scream at the security to come and figure it out. So that was an embarrassing situation for the club. A guy like Chicharito is a international, worldwide, high profile star. You should not have fans allowed to go run up and take a selfie with him. You've seen in Europe, they've had a lot of problems since COVID with crowd disturbances, with pitch invasions, and you don't want that happening here, because one of the things that MLS is able to leverage to attract talent here is that it's a professional, well-run, safe, secure environment. That's not true of a lot of stadiums throughout the world, and so if you have epic security breakdown like this. That doesn't speak well of the planning, the event planning. With that said, this was a fun game. It was fun to be back at Stanford Stadium to watch the parachuters drop in from the sky before the game. I wish this could have been in June when the Quakes had a little bit more higher stakes in the playoff race. It feels like if this game happened then, it could have been a huge turnaround for the team. They were building up momentum right at that time of year. And this is the kind of game that gets the energy of the crowd going, that helps the fans push on the team. Because even tonight, when the playoffs don't matter, it's out of the question. Last week, the Quakes were eliminated mathematically from the playoffs. You still got 44,200 fans at this stadium. That was the number that we were given by the Quakes PR. It took a while for the stadium to fill up. I know Phil showed up halfway into the second half because he was spending the whole time trying.
I wasn't going to talk about that because I didn't want to trash too much on the whole situation. But yes, it was far into the game when I finally got into the stadium. So,
but we made it in time just for the second half comeback.
We had a good time watching the match from up here in the press box. It was still a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you weren't the only one, Phil. I think a lot of the fans trickled in the second half as well, and they created a good atmosphere. I was surprised. It didn't feel any emptier than any of the past games here. It felt like they had a solid, strong crowd, and that was fun to see because I think it's easy to feel a lot of despair about this team right now, or to feel a little bit rudderless, like a lack of direction. But I think this shows that, if Luchi Gonzalez takes over, if they get the right signings next season, that there is a strong fan base that will turn out to support this team. No,
there was still good vibes, Alex, and even going into the fireworks show and everything at the end. I mean, people stuck around. People were having a good time despite the loss, right? I think, fans coming into the match, they kind of knew what the outcome of the season was going to be. So they were just coming here to have fun. And the Quakes got a couple goals in the net. They didn't get the win, but they were able to put a couple in the back of the net, despite the fact that one was actually an own goal. But it counts, right? It goes on the scoreboards.
And I think Nico Shakiris was the highlight. I think there are a couple other concerns in this lineup. I think Rodriguez was another liability tonight. He really didn't cover himself in glory with that first goal, flying tackle over the ball that he missed that allowed Chicharito to score. I think Chicharito's second goal was also Rodriguez's fault. He just stepped to the ball and let Chicharito run in behind. I could recreate it out on the field if you'd like, but he looked very, very lost and allowed Chicharito. Didn't have the awareness, and that's the problem.
You won't do it.
That's the problem. That's the problem when you get two center backs who are both want to step up to the ball and to lunge in. It feels like they're a kind of weird, uncomfortable duo. Rodriguez is a guy clearly with a lot of promise, a lot of talent, but it's unclear if, what the Quakes need right now is, a young center back who isn't very polished, because it seems like that's going to, disrupt this team. They're going to be too liable for mistakes at the back. So that's something that worried me about tonight's game. I think I was also, a little bit disappointed with Cade Cowell's performance. I think he had a lot of space to run at the defenders and seemed to sometimes let the crowd thinking get to his head a little bit. He saw too much green and he'd try to take a shot, or he'd try to make the hero pass when all they needed was the simple ball to the next player. I think I would have liked to see Benji Kukanovic start this game or play more minutes, because it felt like he's the kind of guy who can handle this kind of college game day, because he came from Sacramento State. He was playing college soccer not too long ago, and he talked to us in midweek about how he was ready to rip off the shirt if he was the one to score a late winner. He talked about how none of them were wearing bibs underneath their jerseys. They usually wear like the stats, sports tracking bibs for their performance statistics, but they all had them off tonight in case they were the one to score a last minute winner. So I would have liked to see more Benji Kukanovic. I think we've probably said that 100 times this season. Other than that, I'm not sure if there's much new to report. I think Christian Espinosa was shut down on the right-hand side. I'm a little worried.
Trioko, Alex. We did get into that a little bit as well. So he makes his debut for the squad. Trioko, what do you think? Left back position.
I think he looked solid defensively. He was solid. I mean, he didn't get pressed a lot. I think there's only so much you can take away from 15 minutes at the end of a game like this, but he was solid. I want to see him getting forward down the wing a little bit more, because that's something that Marcos Lopez was really, really good at doing on that left side, and felt like could have been more useful in the last 20 minutes of this game. But I'm cautiously optimistic about his performance. He seemed like a solid option, at least to cover the Quakes defensively, because that's what they need the most right now. Christian Espinosa on the right, worried about his pace. He seemed to get covered pretty easily. It seems like he's kind of lost that step on his defender, that edge that he might have used to have to be able to speed by down the wing. So that was a concern. But I think all things said, I'm just grateful to be back here at Stanford Stadium and to get to experience a Cali Clasico again. It feels like a kind of a reset after all of the struggles that the Quakes have been going through these last year, to be able to return to this place and just envision all the memories in each corner of the stadium. Remembering Shea Salinas. It was nice to see him get on the field at the end of the game. And look, as I said at the top, the Quakes did it. They scored 2 late goals. They had the last-minute goal. But as has been the case this whole season, they dug themselves a hole that was too deep, and they weren't able to recover.
All right. Well, there's still a few minutes left, Alex. So I'm giving you one last chance in case there's anything else you want to add.
If you insist. I can walk around here and give you a little demonstration on the pitch here of blow by blow of what happened, of where Chicharito scored his goal.
So Alex, it will really only be complete if we get the clown dance at the end. I just want to make that clear.
That's right. The clown dance as well.
So right now I'm in the center of the penalty box.
Oh, I can see you down there. Yeah. He's really down there. Oh, we just lost him. He lost his signal.
Oh no! Foul
here,
call.
Where he ran in behind. I could be losing Wi-Fi. Phil is up there somewhere. Chicharito ran in behind right here, and then got a little poke past the keeper there to score. I'm in the center of the box right now, and then he ran to this corner here in this direction, and he gave a little clown dance right here. And so that's the blow by blow. You can get the alternate camera angle as well. And they still have fireworks going off because they know I scored. That's a celebratory firework. I'm glad that they were ready with the pyrotechnics.
Very well deserved. Very well deserved.
So I appreciate I appreciate your support, gentlemen.
Yeah, well, looks like you're having a lot of fun down there, buddy. Okay, well, I want to again have go ahead and plug the Quakes Epicenter website, www.quakesepicenter.com. Check out our Patreon. Check out the salary spreadsheet by Colin Etnier. Make sure you follow us on social media for even more fun. We're on Twitter and Instagram at Quakes Epicenter, and there's still some fireworks going on. Find us on social media at Quakes Epicenter. Check us out on there. Make sure you like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Alex, down on the field, I'm gonna let you have the last word before we get out of here.
Appreciate everyone for tuning in. It was nice to see some of you at the stadium to wave in and say hi. I didn't see any Quakes Epicenter scarves, so that was a little bit disappointing, but I hope that somebody had them. I can see it in Robert's screen right there. So if you haven't bought your Quakes Epicenter scarf yet, I highly encourage you. They go for $30, I think, on the Quakes Epicenter shop online. All that money helps support what we do, making this show happen, allowing Phil to be up there in the press box, allowing me to be here on the field. I flew in from Los Angeles, where I'm living now, for this game, to be able to be in here, and that's thanks to all of your wonderful support. So we truly appreciate everyone for all your comments, your engagement in the chat, for joining our Patreon Slack. If you subscribe to our Patreon, then you get access to the Slack channel that was popping off tonight, per usual. I think we're over 100 folks on there right now, so the conversation will continue. If you want extra extended cut highlights of me scoring more goals on this net right here, you'll have to find them in the patron Slack. It's the extra long match of the day that we'll have running after hours in the patron Slack. So appreciate everyone for joining us tonight, and hope to see you next time.
Yeah, and one more thing. I just wanted to say special thanks to Robert Jonas for really carrying the show in the beginning when the fireworks were going off and everything. And this dark room in the press box. So anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in. I hope you have a good night.